and they become primal matter.
Jeez. In a sense, isn't that the ultimate goal of the left-hand path?
That's what it is. But of course, once again, they don't realize or understand that the end is as primal matter. They just want to go back to sleep in eternal oneness.
Now, they don't recognize God as a being that has above them, that has the higher authority.
Right. They are God. They are God in the sense that, they themselves, an individual, It's one thing to say that God manifests in all of us. We are all God, and that we honor all other selves as God. They do not do that. They say, God is within me, and the best way to, get back to God is to serve that God that is in me specific individually, to whatever point it needs to be served so that it can grow and get stronger and bigger and deeper and heavier and more slug-like. Of course, they don't say that part of it.
I'm reminded of Aleister Crowley, and he says, "Do what thou wilt." And
yeah, there you go. That's it. And that's their whole perspective, and that is ultimately the alien perspective as well.
Let's talk about the aliens now and how they are relating to these demonic beings.
Well, remember now, we're talking about a completely different manifestation here, because we're talking about we're talking about layers of reality, and this is something that is described in some of the most ancient literature, what they call the 7 layers of reality, or the 7 steps of Brahma, the 7 sages, or the 7 rishis, or the 7 days of creation.
We talk about the 7 heavens too, don't we?
Well, the 7 heavens may be something altogether different, but then it may be the same thing. But essentially, we're talking about 7 layers of reality. Mm-hmm. We are at the 3rd layer. There is a 4th layer that is above us, and it is an intermediate layer. Say that if you take your number 7 and you have the highest level is 7th density, which basically is everything. And then you have the reverse of the coin of 7th density, which is matter, primal matter. And then in between this mirror of primal matter and all potential of 7th density, you have these 5 other densities, 2 of which are completely ethereal, 2 of which are matter that is not conscious. Mm-hmm. And then you have this intermediate layer of 4th density, which is paraphysical. It is a physical density. It is a physical level. This is the alien reality.
Yeah, I've heard David Icke talk about that this is where the reptilians reside, in the 4th density.
Right, and unfortunately, I think that he's gone a little overboard in trying to understand it in terms of demonic existences, because demonic beings are truly quite different. As I said, they don't communicate, they don't interact. I mean, it's very difficult to get anything from them at all. And in terms of this alien reality, we still have, quite an interaction, quite a hierarchy going on. But for the most part, it serves self. It acts like the shepherd on many occasions. Taking good care of the sheep so it can have dinner and warm clothing.
Yeah, we're primarily now talking about the reptilian beings.
Well, reptilians, greys, what do you call them? The
Nordics?
praying mantis.
Praying mantis being.
Yeah, the Nordics, so on and so forth.
Now, they are all in the 4th density?
Right. There's a whole range, and when you go through some of the literature, you just realize that there's just a whole range of them. And if you think about the Hermetic maxim, as above, so below.
Uh-huh.
And if we look at our reality, and we think about it in terms of different functions of society, different types of people, I mean, we have all kinds of different intellectual levels, we have different emotional expressions, we have people who are bankers, we have people who are the ruling elite, we have people who are doctors, lawyers, we have ordinary workers, we have people who are perfectly happy to dig ditches all their lives because, for them it's satisfying. Mm-hmm. The same thing holds true with these higher levels of reality, this fourth density level of reality. If we look at the density below us, second density, and we look at the lower levels of it, plant life, and then the intermediate levels, that are more basic forms of life, but they're animal life, and then the higher animals, on up through companions of man, the apes, the chimpanzees, so on and so forth. You see all different kinds of levels of being. A level doesn't necessarily constitute a judgment in terms of greater or lesser. It just constitutes a different type or different expression. Mm-hmm. The same thing holds true at the fourth density level of reality. For example, the grays, what we call the zetas, they are biobots. They are not quite plant life, but they are what you would call bioengineered beings of the reptoids.
I've heard that.
And they are, and there are several varieties. I've got an interesting document that was passed to me a few years ago that actually supposedly was smuggled out of some kind of military study, and it has pictures, and I've got them on my website. I scanned them and put them on the website of different kinds of alien beings that have been encountered by some of these people working in these underground facilities.
Well, before you go further, why don't you go ahead at this time and give out your website address?
Okay, it's www.cassiopeia.org.
And spell Cassiopeia there for me.
Okay, it's CASSIOPAEA.org. It's an unusual spelling.
They can see some of these photographs of these grays on your website.
Well, they're drawings. They're not photographs.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Right, and but interestingly, quite a number of them seem to be bioengineered beings with specific functions. And the interesting thing about the grays is from what I understand, and this is not just from our own material or our own work, but this is from doing some research in the material of other people and things that they've discovered or ferreted out. It seems that some of these grays, they've actually taken some of them and crossed them with human-type genetics and created a little bit higher level being that comes across as having some, intellectual capacity.
Some capacity for emotions?
Well, I don't know if you'd even call it emotional capacity, although that they can mimic that. And I'm sure you really are familiar with human beings who can mimic emotions. So just consider, if you will, the ability of human beings to do all of the things that they do, and then jack that up about 100 times an order of magnitude to this higher level of reality, and you come to a realization that these beings, even these low-level zeta types, can mimic certain things about human beings in such a way, in a robotoid way, that we can't tell the difference.
And I've heard now that some of these gray hybrids work in these underground bases, and some of the possibly the Delta forces might have some of them on the team. Or
well, I wouldn't say that it's impossible, because whatever's been going on this planet's been going on for many thousands of years, because, we've certainly found tracks of it in very ancient literature. The most ancient shamanic customs of the Altai shamans in Siberia describe their function as being that of ascending to, climbing the tree of life, so to speak, ascending to another level of reality, either above, as in the heavens, or below in the hells, to bargain with the beings, the spirits they call them, to release their hold upon the patient, the shaman's patient, and also to remove objects that are implanted in their bodies by these beings. Mm-hmm. And this is a tradition thousands of years old.
Well, we're right here at our break time again. We'll be at our last break here before we wind up the show tonight. We're going to take another 5-minute break, and we'll come back, and then we'll start to wrap things up, because I definitely want to get into some other areas here before we let you go tonight, because I'm totally intrigued with everything you've had to say so far, but I definitely want to get into talking about this manipulated matrix thing more.
Okay.
Okay, you're listening to Night Search, and we've got Laura Knight on. We'll be back shortly.